Hi, today we will walk through some example of how to solve a trigonometry equations, especially in quadratic form. Okay, so let's go to the first example. So I want to find all the solutions of the equation that are in the interval from 0 to 2 pi. Zeros is included, but 2 pi is not included. Okay, so suppose I have 2 cosine squared theta plus cosine theta equal to 0. Okay? So just like solving a trigonometry equation is similar to solving an algebraic equation, right? So I have a 0 on the right-hand side. So that means on the left-hand side, I would like to be able to factor it so I can set each of a quantity equal to 0. Right? So on the left-hand side, let me rewrite the cosine squared theta in this form. Instead of cosine squared theta, I'm going to write it like this. Cosine theta, all of that square, plus cosine theta equal to 0. And I see a common factor here, right, between the two terms. So I can factor out cosine theta. What's left is 2 cosine theta for the first term, and the second term is just 1, equal to 0. Okay. All right, so in order for the left-hand side to be equal to the right-hand side, either this quantity equal to 0 or this quantity to be equal to 0, right? So I have either cosine theta equal to 0 or 2 cosine theta plus 1 equal to 0. Right, let's solve the first one first. Cosine theta equal to 0 when, so if you look at the unit circle, which I added here for you, from the interval 0 to 2 pi, cosine theta is equal to 0 at where, right? Remember, cosine theta is your x value, right? So I see here and here between 0 and 2 pi, right? Because remember, cosine is your x value. So it is equal to 0 at pi over 2 and 3 pi over 2, or 90 degree and 270 degree. But I'm going to use radian. So cosine theta equals 0 when theta equal pi half or 3 pi half. Okay. For the second one, I'm going to subtract 1 both sides. So I have 2 cosine theta equal -1. And then I divide both sides by 2, so I have cosine theta equal -1/2. Again, look at your unit circle from 0 to 2 pi. Where is the cosine theta equal to 1/2? Where is x equal to, -1/2 I meant. -1/2. I see it's here, right? And here, right? Because you got -1/2 here and -1/2 here. So what was that? It's at 2 pi over 3 and 4 pi over 3. So cosine theta equal -1/2 when theta equal 2 pi over 3 and 4 pi over 3. So altogether you have 4 solutions, right? 4 solutions right there. Okay. All right, let's go to another example. This one a little bit more challenging. So suppose I have, number 2, suppose I have 3 times the quantity of 1 minus sine theta equal cosine squared theta. So first thing first, I'm going to distribute on the left-hand side. Right? I'll distribute that number 3. So I have 3 times 1 is 3, minus 3 times sine theta. Okay. On the right-hand side, I would like to convert that cosine theta square term into a sine theta. So I'm going to use Pythagorean theorem. If you remember, we have sine theta squared plus cosine theta squared equal 1, right? And I want to solve for cosine squared theta, which is equal to 1 minus sine squared theta. Okay? So this right here will be 1 minus sine squared theta. Okay. Now I'm going to move all the variables and constant to the left-hand side, and the right-hand side I'll have 0. So if I add sine squared theta to the sine squared theta to both sides, I have sine squared theta, and then I have minus 3 sine theta. If I subtract 1 both sides, I have plus 2 equal to 0. Okay. Now, because same thing with how to solve an equation in algebraic expression, you have 0 on one side. So on the left-hand side, you would like to factor. You would like your expression in the factor form, right? So if you have a hard time seeing this as a quadratic formula, I suggest that you want to set sine theta equal to x. I want you to see sine theta as an x, right? So that means if I square both sides, sine squared theta equal x squared, right? So in terms of sine theta, I'm going to replace this equation with x. So sine squared theta become x squared minus 3 sine theta, this become minus 3x plus 2 equal to 0. And now you can comfortably factor it like you do in algebra. I see an x here and an x here. I need two numbers, multiply get me 2, and add up get me negative 3. So I see 2, 2, oh, I see 2 and 1. Sorry. And then minus and minus. So my solution is either x equal 1 or x equal 2. Right? But maybe I don't need that step. So all you need to do is replace sine theta back, right? Instead of x. So this become sine theta minus 1 times sine theta minus 2 equal to 0. Maybe I don't need to solve completely. Okay. Now, again, in order for the left-hand side equal to the right-hand side, which is 0, either we have this quantity equal to 0 or this quantity equal to 0, right? So either I have sine theta minus 1 equal to 0 or sine theta minus 2 equal to 0. Let's solve the first one first. I'm going to add 1 both sides, so I have sine theta equal 1. Okay, so what angle of theta that give me sine theta equal 1? So again, psi is your y value, right? So between 0 and 2 pi, I see y equal 1 or sine theta equal 1 is right here. Right here, right? At pi over 2. So let me erase. Right here, right? So theta is equal to, sine theta equal 1 when theta equal to 90 degree or pi over 2. Right? Okay, now the second one, sine theta minus 2 equals 0. So I have sine theta equal 2. Now, do we have a solution to this equation, psi theta equal 2, right? I will show you two ways of solving this equation. One way is using a graphing calculator, and the other way is doing it analytically. Okay, so so naturally, what I would do is I add size inverse both sides. So if I do this, that's what I do: sine inverse, I have psi theta here, and the 2 here, right? That's naturally what we would do, right? And then I see sine inverse and size is canceled. So on the left hand side, I just have theta, right? And then on the right hand side, I have sine inverse of 2. What is sine inverse of 2? What is the values of sine inverse of 2? Let's use calculator. Make sure your calculator is in radian mode. So let me check mode. Yet mine is in radian, so I'm good. Second mode to quit. And now I want to evaluate size inverse of 2. Enter. Not a number, right? Not a number. So what does that mean? Well, on your graphing calculator, TI-84, it probably tell you an error domain. And that's because if you remember anything about the inverse function of size, so let me remind you. If I have y equals size inverse of x, right? Or of theta. Let me replace x with theta. Well, its domain is between what? Between -1 and 1. And its range, just FYI, is between -π½ and π². Okay, so should be a y here, not theta. So the tooth here is apparently not inside the domain interval, right? So therefore, we don't have a solution here. It's outside the domain. We don't have a solution here. That's why your graphing calculator is showing error in the domain. So no solution. Okay. All right, the other way of showing to prove that psi theta equal 2 doesn't have a solution, I will do it analytically. So another method is that we know that psi theta equal 2, right? If I square both sides, psi squared theta is equal 4. Okay. And we know that now, we know that the Pythagorean theorem gives us the equation psi squared theta plus cos psi squared theta equal 1. Right? I'm going to replace psi squared theta with 4. So I have 4 plus cos psi squared theta equal 1. Okay? And subtract 4 both sides. So I have cos psi squared theta equal -3. Can a square number be a negative? No, right? This is not possible. It's not possible. Therefore, this right here have no solution either. So that's how we show it analytically. Okay. So the solution here is just theta equal π².